Welcome to Fiberchats. If you've been knitting for a while, then chances are you have a bunch of leftover yarn in your stash. Something that might look like this, looks familiar. Or you might have a whole bunch of mini skeins and you don't really know what you can do with those cute things. So today I want to talk about what you can make with advent calendars, with mini skeins, or with your leftover yarn. I have 50 ideas for you to choose from, and I hope you enjoy it. A little trick I found very helpful when you have your leftover yarn is to take a cocktail fork like this and write the name of the yarn and who made it and just stick it in, and it's going to be there as a reminder of what it is that you have left over. So what can you make from all those leftover yarns or mini skeins that you have in your stash? I decided to break it into categories, and I'm going to start with the largest one, the blankets. So the very first blanket I want to tell you about is the Keyfit baby blanket by Tanis Lavallee. This blanket is knitted with DK weight yarn, and it needs about 1,300 yards to make this blanket. The recommended amount in the pattern is 8 different colors, but you can make it, you can combine the colors, you can combine like 2 fingering weight yarns and make it more mild version. So the possibilities with this blanket absolutely like endless. And also the good thing is you need this blanket in pieces and then you seam it. So you're never working on too big of a piece. So you can totally take it on the go if you're waiting somewhere or if you're knitting in public and you just have a little time, you can knit a piece of that and then you seam it later. The second blanket I want to tell you about is called Triangulum blanket by Ellie Jones. And what I love about this particular blanket is that you can design it with any gauge in mind. You can knit this blanket as small or as large as you like. You can knit it out of any kind of yarn you have left over in your stash. It's a perfect pattern for knitting on the go because you can work on just one little piece. And each of those triangles requires just 3 or 4 grams of yarn. So you can use anything, what you have left over in your stash. So this blanket was inspired by Triangulum's star constellation, and it was designed for fingering or DK weight yarn. You can use actually any yarn you have left over in your stash. It consists of simple triangular units that can be easily joined as you go. And the way it's written, it doesn't take a lot of concentration once you have the stitches cast on. So it's perfect, absolutely perfect for all those little leftovers you have in your stash. If you're looking for a challenging project, something that's going to keep you on your toes, then the next blanket that I found is perfect for you. It's called Iona by Lucy Hague. And if you've done any projects by Lucy, you'll know how intricate those cables can be and how beautiful it looks at the end. So this blanket is designed for light fingering weight, and each square requires 2 different yarns, 30 yards of one color and 26 yards of another. So it's absolutely perfect for those little mini skeins or the leftover yarn you have in your stash. And the way you knit it, it's assembled from individual squares and worked separately in the round from the center out. And then you attach it with a 3-needle cast off, or you seam it together. So you can also work on each individual square separately and then just seam them together. So I actually think I'm going to try to do that because that seems like my kind of project. The next blanket I wanted to tell you about is called the Coziest Memory Blanket by Kemper Wray. And it's more of a recipe. It's actually a free pattern on Ravelry. And each square is only 3.5 inches on each side. and it's using 5 to 6 grams of leftover sock yarn. So it's the easiest thing to use for your leftover yarns. It's really like simple blanket to knit. You can make a bunch of little squares and then assemble them later. I think you would enjoy it, and I really like the name of this blanket. The last blanket I want to tell you about is called Safe at Home blanket, and it's by Margaret Holzmann. And what I love about that blanket, it looks very, very difficult, but it uses 12 different colors. You need 270 yards of each of those 12 colors, and then another extra 180 yards is used for the border. And the reason this blanket caught my eye is because it uses intarsia. So if you want to learn intarsia, this is a perfect project for that, because you can just practice on small squares and get your technique going. So highly recommend this pattern. Let's move now to the next category, wraps. The first wrap I want to tell you about caught my eye because of my love of brioche. It's called Field of Flowers wrap by Leela Francombe. And this wrap is absolutely perfect for all the advent calendars out there. It requires 18 different colors in fingering weight yarn, approximately 70 meters or 77 yards of each. And you can use your leftover yarns for that, or the mini skeins if you have those. And for the contrast color, you need 900 meters or 984 yards of fingering weight yarn. This pattern uses two-color brioche. And if you are afraid of brioche, this is a perfect wrap to learn this technique on, because it has the combination of like very simple two-color brioche, but also teaches you the increases and decreases in small segments. And by the end of this wrap, you're going to be a pro at anything brioche has to throw your way. The wrap is worked from corner to corner, so it makes it very easy to adjust the size if you need to. You can decide of how long or how short you want this wrap to be. And it's also easy to adjust it widthwise, so you can make it a scarf or you can turn it into a blanket, which is a nice option to have. The next wrap I wanted to tell you about is called Among the Clouds by Melinda Measor. And I really love how easily adjustable this wrap is. You can change the lengths of it. You can also change different weights of yarn. You can make it narrower, wider, longer, shorter, anything you can dream of. In this specific pattern, they use the advent calendar and use 24 mini skeins, but you can also use scraps that you have. All you need is 46 yards or 42 meters of each color. And then for the main color, you need 523 yards. That's going to create the division between those stripes. Also, what I like about this pattern that it has both charts and written instructions. So it's, if you are afraid of lace charts, there are written instructions for you there. There is also progress tracker included in the pattern to help you with the rows and stitch counts. And the yardage for each section is also given there if you want to do it as a scrappy project. There is also a blank diagram that comes with the pattern, and you can take your crayons and just color it the way you want it. So it's easier for you to imagine the finished project. I just know you're going to enjoy playing with this wrap. There's so many possibilities there. The next project I want to tell you about is Lamina Wrap by Ambah O'Brien. And I love a lot of patterns by Ambah O'Brien for scrappy projects. She has a lot of patterns that she does specifically for advent calendars. So this specific one, I actually knitted a few times and I used it as a giveaway shawl on my channel. What I love about it, that you can be basically an artist. You can create sunset, or you can create the seascape, or anything you can think of. You can use any colors. You can make it with gradient colors, so you can use contrasting colors, so you can even make it with just 2 colors. So the possibilities are endless. This pattern also both charted and has written instructions, so it's easier. Like if you prefer charts for lace, they're there, but if you're struggling with charts, then the written instructions are there to help you. And I think you would really enjoy this pattern. It just makes a beautiful drapey wrap that you can wear with absolutely anything. The next wrap I wanted to tell you about is called Electric Slide by Lisa K. Ross. And I really love this wrap for how catchy it is. It's all very geometrical, sharp lines, and it's really eye-catching. The possibilities are endless. You can use 6 colors of any color. Like they use the rainbow in the pictures for this wrap, but you can use any colors that you like. I also like that it's basically knitted as a triangular shawl, and then the lace strips are added later to make it into a wrap. So it's very interesting construction. I think you will enjoy it. The next wrap that I want to tell you about is called Glam Garden Wrap by Suraya Hossain. And Suraya has been a guest of my channel. You can watch her interview on my channel if you'd like. You'll find this pattern very soothing. There are some garter palette cleansers there and some simple stitch patterns. It's basically 24 different sections. And the first 11, I repeated in reverse for the sections after the middle of it. There is also an interesting crystalline tarja motif that adds sparkle to the center of the wrap. It's a very individual pattern because you can use the colors that you have in your stash, or you can use the advent colors. You can create different variations of these colors and according to your mood and according to your preference. And it's very drapey, beautiful, luxurious wrap. And I think you're going to enjoy it. Well, today is another day, and I'm continuing to put together these scrappy project ideas. And we're going to start with garments. So the first garment I want to talk about is called Dunes of Latvia sweater by David van de Kamp, a dear friend of mine. And this garment is using DK weight yarn. It's basically like stripes divided by Latvian braids. And I really like the shoulder detail on this jumper. And you only need 50 to 90 grams of each color, depending on the size. So the whole pattern is written for different individual sizes. So you just print the pages that you need for your size, and you need that following the instructions. And this sweater is size inclusive. It goes from size small to size 3 extra large. Take a look at this sweater. I think it's perfect project for all your leftover yarns because you can create any kind of palette with this sweater. And I hope you're gonna like it because I know a lot of people enjoyed knitting it. Next thing that caught my eyes was Scrappy Striber by Pia Trans. And this can be done in any kind of weight. So they give you a gauge and you can meet this gauge in fingering and sport and decay and worsted. So you can literally use any scraps of yarn that you have in your stash. You can do repeats of just a few colors, or you can make each stripe of a different color. And I really like how you can adjust it to any yarn weight and to whatever you have in your stash. It's also perfect for the mini skeins that you get this time of the year in your advent calendars, or if you do some yarn exchange, yarn swaps, that would be a great place to use those random yarns that you get as a gift. The next project I want to tell you about called the V-Back Tee. It's by Jamie Hoffman. It's described as a rebellious reversal of the popular V-neck design. And basically, with this top-down construction, You have the V-back shaping on the back, and it uses some German short rows, so you get to practice that. There is a very interesting method of fading colors by bringing the third color into every transition. So they call it the third color hiccup, and it interrupts the fade, but it also helps to maintain the overall look of that sea. And you can use 4 colors or 5 colors or 3 colors, or you can just make the entire thing in 1 color. But I think it's a perfect opportunity to play with whatever you have in your stash and play with that fade and make it your own. It also gives you an option of short sleeve, or you can do long sleeve option. So I find that also helpful. It's also size inclusive. It goes from size 1 to size 9, or from 31 to 63 inches. And I like the fact that you can make it short sleeve or long sleeve option, depending on what you prefer or what time of the year it is. Next pattern I wanted to tell you about is by one of my favorite designers, Stephen West. I'm sure you've heard of him. So this sweater called Painted Bricks, and Stephen has the whole collection of similar designs for shawls. I actually knitted Painted Bricks shawl and gave it to another dear friend of mine, Monique Boonstra, who you might know as A Passion for Lace. This sweater is also size inclusive. It goes from size extra small to size 5 extra large. And it's knitted in DK weight. You need one main color to frame those little bricks, and then your imagination is your limit, basically, as far as the colors go for this sweater. So you can use advanced calendars for that, mini skeins, or Stephen is a master of playing this color, and I hope this pattern will inspire you to do the same. The final sweater that I want to tell you about is called Kaleidoscope by Mary and Benedetto. And that caught my eye. It's definitely on my list of things to knit. I love how simple it is. It looks very classy, but it has these rebellious sleeves, and you can really customize it. And it's knitted 1 color at a time because it's a mosaic knitting. So it's actually much easier than it looks. It looks very complicated, but it's actually not. It's knitted in sports weight yarn, and you can use as many colors as you like on the sleeves. It's a really great pattern for a beginner knitter because all you need to know is how to knit and purl and slip stitches, and you're golden. You can knit this sweater. Pattern is written for 7 different sizes to fit 34 to 58 bust measurement. I hope you're going to give it a try. And if you're enjoying this program so far, please hit that like button and consider subscribing to my channel. Also, please let me know what other kind of programs would you like to see on my channel. I'm always looking for new ideas. Now to the shawls. The first shawl I want to tell you about is called Icarus Shawl by David van de Kamp. And it's actually the project I'm working on right now. So it's this stripy shawl. You create basically the stripes of 1 color, and then there is a very clever construction of how to divide it with this main color. And you can use just 1 color, you can use multiple colors. Yes, you can see I'm using all my scraps in blue, and I put like a little accent of yellow in the center to mark the center of this shawl. And then on top, there's going to be a beautiful cabled border that's going to connect all those strips. And it's such a pleasure to knit because it's mostly, you just do the simple knitting, and this, it keeps you on your toes because the color's always changing, but it's also like very relaxive, meditative knit. So I couldn't recommend it more highly. You will love it, I know it. And you are the artist behind all the colors that you choose for the shawl. So it can be a striking rainbow colors, or it can be like very subdued pastel colors. You decide. The pattern originally was written for DK weight yarn, but I'm actually using fingering weight, and it looks just fine. So you can use different ways, and you can customize it by creating more stripes or less stripes depending on how heavy the yarn you're using. So that gives you another option to customize this shawl. The next shawl had to be on my list simply because of the name. It's called Honey, I Shrunk the Stash by Leslie Ann Robinson. In this shawl, you can use your advent calendars. It's a great place to learn your brioche or to polish those techniques. It's a simple brioche knit, so you're not gonna stumble too much. You can use your leftovers or the beautiful advent minis that you just received, or some odd balls of yarn that you have lying around in your stash. And you can change your mind as you go. You can make some wider stripes or shorter stripes. There is also a special page in the pattern that helps you with all your choices for the colors. The designer describes the skill level as beginner brioche friendly, but she also says that you don't need to know brioche. You can learn it with this pattern. So if you were hesitant about learning brioche but want to try, this is a perfect shawl to do that. Another one of my favorite designers for this kind of scrappy projects is Ambah O'Brien. And I want to recommend you Grevia Shawl by Ambah O'Brien, even though she has so many shawls that are perfect for Advent. What I like about this shawl, it's in fingering weight, so it's perfect for any Advent mini skeins you have. And her patterns usually include both written and charted instruction for the lace pattern, but the lace patterns are always very simple. So it's a perfect place to learn lace and to get comfortable with knitting lace. In her version of the shawl, she used the 10 mini skeins Advent and one skein of the main color. But what you're gonna use is up to you, and you can create all different kind of moods with this shawl. You can make it very striking, or you can make it very subdued. It's absolutely up to you. The next shawl I wanted to tell you about called Please Join Me by Deborah Gerard. And this shawl is perfect for the mini skeins, or you can use the variegated color. It's using fingering weight yarn, and it's very simple technique. There is this picot stripe and garter stitch, basically. It's easy, fast, and you're gonna love those picot stripes because they make it look so beautiful. The last shawl I want to tell you about is called Tailwind, and it's by Josh Ryks-Robinsky. I actually knitted this shawl a few years ago, and I absolutely love the construction of it. It uses short rows, so it's a perfect place to try those. It looks beautiful with Advent mini colors, mini skeins, but it's also very nice to use your scraps. So if you have, because depending on the row, some colors you don't need that much of, and some colors you need more of. So you can choose what you have left over in your stash and play with those colors. You can repeat the colors, or you can make each stripe of a different color. It's up to you. It's also knitted on size 5 needles, so it grows really fast. I think I knitted that whole shawl in just under a week. So it's a perfect quick gift, and you can customize it for each individual person with different colors that you choose. If shawls are too overwhelming, or if you're not a shawl kind of person, then I have 5 suggestions for scarves for you. The first scarf I want to tell you about is called Blinking Eyes by Jean Moss. And it's also a scarf and a shawl, so you can decide what you're going to need. There's double pattern. What attracted me to that pattern is, of course, those wonderful holes that this pattern creates. I absolutely love the very dramatic look of it. And you can use any leftover yarn. It's perfect for playing with different colors. You can decide on how many colors you're going to use for this scarf and what transition is going to be, if it's going to be more gradient way, or if it's going to be like very dramatic, contrasting kind of colors. If you need to make a gift for a child, whether it's your kid or a grandchild or a friend's child, Take a look at this scarf. It's just too adorable to miss. It's called Berry Warm Scarf by Frugal Knitting House. It uses worsted weight and it's on US 9 5.5 millimeters needles, so it grows so fast. The designer says that the average knitter can make this scarf in 2 to 3 days. So it's a perfect gift if you need something quick for a child for Christmas. And you can use all different scraps of yarn in your stash because you can customize those stripes any way you want. I'm sure any child would love this scarf. The next scarf I wanted to tell you about called Ryas by Lina Pasova, and it's a parallelogram that's knitted in different directions. So all the instructions are fully written, so you don't have to worry about that. It has very easy shaping. There is no complicated stitches. There is not even purling. It's basically garter stitch with simple eyelets in between them, and it's all about the shaping of the shawl. There's so many possibilities of what you can make with this shawl, depending on what you have in your yarn stash. It's perfect for those mini skeins. It's perfect for the leftovers. You can customize it any way you want. There's also two kinds of instructions available for this pattern. One is the regular compact instructions, and the other one is the large print with larger letters for those who use portable devices and e-readers, and for people with difficulties reading small font on paper. The next scarf that I want to tell you about is perfect for beginners. If you're just starting to knit, this is a perfect project for you. Or if you're experienced knitter, you can really delight in choosing the colors and customizing it to your liking. It's called Confectionery by Lisa K. Ross. And the designer is comparing this scarf to test tasting some different goodies in a local candy store, because knitting this scarf is every bit as sweet. So I hope you enjoy knitting this scarf. For the last pattern in scarves, I wanted to go back to Stephen West. This scarf is called Melting Marl Scarf. And for this scarf, you can take a basket, put all the leftover fingering weight yarn you have. And if you have about 1,200 grams of yarn in that basket, then it's enough for you to knit this scarf. You're going to be holding together 2 strands of yarn at all times, and you're going to be mixing and matching and creating different colors. It's a paid pattern, but you can get it for free if you sign up for the workshop that Stephen does called Color Play the West Knits Way, Marling. And that online shop is available on his website, or West Knits website. So you can either just buy the pattern or you can get it as part of that workshop and let Stephen teach you how you can marl any leftover yarn you have in your stash. This scarf is knitted on size 8 needles, so it grows really fast. And I know you're going to enjoy marling all your leftover yarns. For the next category, we're going to go smaller. So we're going to talk about cowls. The first cowl I want to tell you about is a design by Michael Harrigan. Michael is a handmaster knitter from the Knitting Guild Association. This cowl is called Berries, Leaves, and Wines. And Michael is originally from the northeast of US, but he now lives in Thailand. And I guess he's missing the winter here. So this cowl is sort of reminiscent of his life in the US. It's knitted in the round, so you can practice your float, you can practice your tension. It's designed for 3 different colors, but you can use more. You can use any fingering weight yarn you have in your stash. And it's a perfect pattern to just practice the fair isle techniques, to try different variations of it. I hope you enjoy it. I really love the way it looks. The next cowl I want to tell you about called Regret the Moon Cowl by Tanis Gray. Tanis was a guest of my channel. You can watch her interview on my channel. And she's a brilliant knitwear designer. The way this cowl is designed, it starts with provisional cast on, so it's a good place to learn it if you haven't tried that yet. and then you knit it in the round and you graft it with Kitchener stitch, which is another technique that you might want to try. And it's a mosaic knitting, so it looks very complicated, but it's actually not. There is one main color and 6 complementary colors, and you only need 125 yards of each complementary color. My next recommendation is All Together Now cowl by Jamila Max. And this cowl also starts with provisional cast on, knitted in the round, and then grafted with Kitchener stitch. But you can use any kind of yarn you have. It can be with worsted, with decay, with fingering, or any combination. It also comes in different sizes. So there is kids size, adult small, medium, large, and extra large. If you are using scraps for the contrast colors, you need to ensure that you have at least 20 yards of each color for each section around. The next pattern is a free pattern by Joji Locatelli called Knit Free. And this is a perfect place to try those ombre mini sets if you have those, or you can again use any leftover yarn you have in your stash. There are 6 different colors being used, and you will need about 15 grams of each of those colors. This cowl has a very interesting texture, and I'm sure you will love to play with those colors and textures. Have fun with that one. The next project I want to recommend you is a cowl called Cornucopia Cowl by Hannah Jakes. And what I love about it, it's a quick project. And if you need a gift for somebody or just want to knit something for yourself really quickly, it's instant gratification. It knitted with super bulky yarn and size 13 needles. So you understand it's going to go fast. If you're looking for smaller project, but you don't necessarily want a cowl, I have 5 recommendations for hats. And the first hat I want to tell you about is called Ripcord Hat by Ross Taylor. Ross has been a guest of my channel numerous times. He's an indie dyer, very talented, owner of Twisted Ambitions yarns. So this particular hat uses intarsia. And if you've been terrified by intarsia, this is a perfect project to dip your toes into the water. Because it's small, because it's manageable, it uses 4 to 6 contrasting colors and 1 main color. It's knitted in DK yarn, and you knit with intarsia in the round with seamless join at the beginning and the end of each round, and then with textured I-cord, you bind off separating each block of color. It's really pretty hat, and it's manageable project, and you learn new technique. The next pattern I want to tell you about called Mash It Up by Babs Asherman. And it's a really simple hat. You knit it with 2 different fingering weight yarns held together, and it gives you plenty of opportunities to play with color. As the designer says, the pattern is simple, but the opportunity to play with colors is endless. Pull out your bag of odds and ends, find 6 or more or fewer colors you like together, and cast on. This is a free pattern, so it's perfect for last-minute gifts, or if you just want to try to play with colors. The next hat, called Love the Winter Hat by Emily Dormia, and I actually knitted this hat for my girlfriend and her daughter. You can make them reverse, like you can do 2 complementing colors, or you can try different colors as well. And this hat is also a free pattern on Ravelry. It's knitted with worsted weight on US size 8 needles. And there is all different kinds of sizes from baby to adult large. This hat is also a perfect way to try new technique. If you haven't tried Fair Isle or if you haven't tried stranded color work, it's a very manageable, easy pattern, and it's free. Number 34 is the Conversationalist hat by Plucky Knitter. What I like about this hat, it's basically your best on-the-go project. You don't have to stop what you're doing. You can just have coffee with friends and knit. You can probably knit it blindfolded. And you can use whatever yarn you have. It's made with worsted weight yarn on US size 7 needles, and it's perfect for like a quick gift for any loved one in your life. And it's gonna look good on anybody because it's a basic beanie. Another bonus of this pattern, it's free. The last hat that I want to tell you about is called Strata Beanie by Nikki Griffin. And it's basically a hat that you can wear with your ponytail out. It has a lot of different colors that you can use the leftovers in your stash for. And it also knitted with decay, so it knits fast. And because it's so squishy, it's actually extra warm. It's written in full with handy progress check boxes, so you can keep a visual track of where you are in this hat. The best part about knitting this beanie is choosing the next color. You're the captain of that ship. I know that many of you love knitting socks, so of course I had to tell you about some of the patterns for sock knitting. So the first pattern I want to tell you about was designed by Alison Randall, who was a guest of my channel. She was actually the second episode on my channel, so please watch that interview if you haven't already. And it's called Worsted Rivlins. So the Rivlins were traditionally a homemade shoe worn in Shetland during the crofting period, and they were made from seal skin or cowhide. But since now the seals are protected, it's a better way to knit those shoes. It's knitted with Aran weight yarn, so it's really quick project, and it'll keep you very warm. And while you're checking out this pattern on Ravelry, look at other patterns by Alison Randall, and you'll see that she is a real artist when it comes to picking colors for her color work. I really love all her patterns, and I've test knitted a few of them, and they are always a pleasure to knit. The next pattern I want to tell you about, called Gioia by Rebecca Mauser. It's a stunning looking pattern that uses a lot of different colors, and you can make matching pairs for all your family members, or you can make each one individual. This pattern has 8 kid sizes and 6 adult sizes, so you can make it for entire family. And there is an interesting construction. The sock starts with the provisional cast on for the heel, and then it's shaped with short rows. And the sole is worked flat in the rows to the toe, and then the toe is shaped with short rows, the same way the heel, but the second color is added for the striped version. It sounds complicated, but believe me, you can do it. The next pattern is free on Ravelry. It's called Squircle by General Huckbuffer. And it has a very interesting construction, and that construction is perfect for using all your leftover yarn that every sock knitter seems to have in common. You can also do self-striping yarn for this pattern if you rather, but since our idea is to use the leftovers, that's a perfect scrappy project for you. And again, it's free on Ravelry. The next pattern on my list is Weekend Shorty Socks by Summer Lee. And they're so playful, they're so cute. They also come in different sizes from toddler to adult extra large. So you can make them for the entire family, you can make them matching, or you can choose individual colors. Just ask your family members their favorite colors and use scrappy yarn for that. According to the designer, these socks are fun, easy, joyful knit that can be whipped up quickly. And it's a great stash buster. And the last pattern that I want to recommend for the socks is a recent pattern by Stephen West called Painting Column Socks. This pattern designed for fingering weight yarn, and it uses 4 different colors, but you can use multiple colors. They are knitted top down in the round with fingering weight sock yarn. And the multi-color stripes are ideal for using leftovers colors from your other socks or shawl projects. You begin with the 2x2 ribbing, and then you continue striping your colors together with slip stitches as you work with one color at a time. Steven says that this project is beginner friendly, so if you want to try some interesting fun socks, this is a great pattern for you. Another category for smaller items are mittens, and I want to start with a free pattern on Ravelry called Fade Walker Fingerless Mitts by Elizabeth Abbott. This pattern comes in 2 different sizes, and it asks for 5 different colors, so you can create your own fade, ombre, or you can just use any colors you like from your stash. The next pattern that really caught my eyes called Everything November Meets by Jen Yard. And it's just such a beautiful, colorful pair of mitts. It's created specifically for advanced beginners, so it's not very difficult. And you can use any combination of fingering weight yarn you have in your stash. The next pattern is also free on Ravelry. It's called Camp Out Fingerless Mitts by Tanti M. This pattern is knitted with Aran weight yarn, so it grows really fast. And these mitts are worked in 2 directions. The hand portion is worked flat in garter stitch, and then the stitches are picked up and worked in rounds for the thumb and wrist portion. It will teach you provisional cast on, grafting, and knitting in the rounds. Another pattern I love, mitts by Alison Randall. It's called Freddy's Mitts. And you get to be an artist here. You get to pick colors that blend into each other and complement each other. It's a perfect way to learn Fair Isle. It's simple, it's manageable, small, and you're gonna love the final result. I actually knitted these mitts and I absolutely love them. And the thing is about these mitts that they look absolutely gorgeous on both sides, on the outside portion of the hand, but also on the inside where the thumb is. Really beautiful construction, and you're gonna love the result. My last recommendation for mittens is Broom Riders Mitts by Shai Kilstrom. And they're such a fun pair. They use a picot edging on both sides, on the wrist and on the bottom, and also around the thumb. And it's beautiful stripes. You get to choose whatever colors you want. It's a free pattern on Ravelry. And the description of this pattern made me giggle. It says, the Broom Rider's mitts are designed to keep your fingers and wrists warm whilst you go around your witchy business. Whether you're picking mushrooms, hanging herbs to dry, feeding your pet toad, or hopping on your broom for a quick fly around the village, they're there to keep you nice and toasty. You have to knit one of those, right? The last category I want to talk about is accessories or small souvenirs. The first pattern in this category is Soho Scrunchie by Tori Yu. And it's a perfect way to use some beautiful hand-dyed leftover fingering weight yarn that you have, or decay yarn would work for it as well. Or you can combine the lace yarn with fingering weight yarn. Well, you get the idea. The possibilities are endless, and it's such a fun and easy project. And I'm sure the girls in your family will appreciate this beautiful scrunchie that you make for them or for yourself. Another fun project that I recommend is a free pattern on Ravelry. It's called Easy Teddy Bear Dolls by Esther Braithwaite. I hope I pronounced that right. It's a very easy teddy bear that you can knit fast for some kids in your household or some friends. And you can customize the shirt of that bear with any colors that you have in your stash. So you can make it as colorful or as plain as you want. If you're wondering what to hang on your Christmas tree, I have a perfect idea for you. Shroom Balls and Snowballs 2022 collection by Yelena Maltseva is a perfect solution. They're so beautiful. There's such a huge variety there, and it's a perfect way to practice your Fair Isle knitting. I'm sure your tree will look amazing. Another idea for the decorating, whether it's for Christmas or for some other events in your life, is a free pattern called Woven Stars. And these are also great to do with kids because you can knit the main parts and they can weave them together. These stars are very quick to knit and they use less than 5 grams of DK weight yarn altogether. They're made out of 2 triangles that knitted in the flat and then they woven together. You can also make them in different sizes by using other weights of yarn. There is also tips and tricks of how you can add beads and buttons to these stars. And my last idea for this category is to make little pouches with any beautiful hand-dyed yarn or any leftover yarn you have and make your gift giving extra special. So I have the pattern that's called Aptechery Pocket Drawstring Bag by Alison Hague, and it's a free pattern on Ravelry, and you can put sachets of dry lavender in it, or you can put soaps or any small items to make them look very special. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I'm going to put all the pattern names in the description of this video so you can find it easily on Ravelry. If you enjoyed this episode, please press the like button and consider subscribing if you haven't already. And also hit that bell button so you get notification for when the next episode's coming out on my channel. Thank you so very much for watching and happy knitting.